Okay everyone, we're still on the theme of the Mark IV Mondeo again today. Don't get me wrong, I would absolutely love to bring you a nice juicy story on a Mark V Mondeo. However, surprisingly enough, nothing has actually gone wrong with a Mark V of late to actually care to mention. So nothing has fallen off or broken that I can find interesting enough to make a video on. So I guess that if you're a Mark V Mondeo owner, you can sleep easy at night. That's good for you. However, that's not too good for me, because if nothing falls off these cars, I haven't got a great deal to talk about. But anyway, this 14 plate Mark IV 2 litre diesel rolled in the yard. The backstory is the driver comes up to me and tells me that his car is smelling of cooked meat, which I find particularly funny. So my kind of attitude towards him is, why don't you go away, take a bath, then come back and tell me if your car still smells of cooked meat. But needless to say, I took a look at his car and he wasn't wrong. And it didn't take particularly long to find out the problem. So there's a plastic cover on top of the engine which covers the fuel injectors. And I just happened to notice it was kind of wet along the seam where it joins. And there's 3 8mm screws that hold this cover down. So I thought I'd unscrew them and have a look. So the long and the short of the matter is, the copper washer at the base of number 3 fuel injector has been leaking over what looks like quite a long period of time, and it has built up a load of tar-like substance around the injector, so much so that it's completely encapsulated the bottom of the injector, and the clamp is pretty much buried in this stuff as well, and it's almost like rock hard toffee. So what I'm going to have to try and do is dig this out so I can remove the injector and change the washer. And you see my little aux beam LED work lamp there? That's shining the light on the engine. I actually found a good use for it. You can see the video on the aux beam LED work lamps here. So the basic prognosis here is there is a copper washer at the base of the diesel fuel injectors. On the number 3 injector, this copper washer, for whatever reason, which I'm about to find out, has been leaking, and the deposits and God knows what that's been leaking past this injector has been building up this kind of tar-like, toffee-like, sticky substance which is built up all the way around the injector. It's made a right mess under here. I don't know how I'm going to clean it up, if it is possible to clean up at all. But the first thing I'm going to have to do is dig this injector out. These injectors normally come out quite easily. They're never really tight in the cylinder heads. Unfortunately now, because the injector's actually buried in this tar-like stuff, and it's actually like concrete, I don't know. I'm going to get a screwdriver and a hammer and try and chisel it out. I'm thinking if I got the engine hot, this gunge would be a bit softer and it'd probably be a bit easier to get out. But also at the same time, it's giving off a lot of fumes and it really stinks. So I don't really fancy breathing it in. I'll tell you a little story on this later. So I'm going to grab my hammer and chisel and see if I can work this gunge out of the way. At least if I can dig enough around the base of the injector, I might be able to pry it out. It's a bit like coal, you know. Anyway, I'll carry on and get back to you when I've dug it all out of the way. So I finally managed to dig out most of this bloody crap that's been around this injector. So I'm going to get a lever bar and see if I can prise this out now. So I'll slide the lever just on that part of the injector. I'm not going to push too hard because I don't want to break the plastic casing I'm pressing on. But I'm just going to take it carefully. And I can tell you for now, it's pretty damn tight in there. I'll give that a few jabs. That's gone. You see that? That's just come up. All I can say is fantastic. I'm just going to put some mole grips on this injector because it doesn't want to come out any further. It seems to have got stuck where it is. So I'm going to see if I can kind of twist it a bit while I lever it at the same time. It is coming. Oh my god, this is gross. There she goes. Got it. We're out. Yuck. Look at that for the price of chips. That is absolutely disgusting. What I'm going to do, I'm going to clean this up and then have a good look at this copper washer. But when I clean this injector up, I'm going to clean all the body of it up. But you see the very tip where the fuel will get sprayed out? I'm not going to touch that. I'm going to leave that well alone because that could actually ruin the injector if I was to wipe that. So I'll just stay away. But I'm going to get this washer off now and see what we can see what's wrong with it. But as far as cleaning up the hole the injector sits in, my best advice is to get a long screwdriver with a flat end, put the screwdriver down the hole and give it a good scrape around carefully, and that will break away all the crispy bits of carbon. Then get your airline down there and blow it all out. I've just cleaned this up and it's actually come out pretty well, so that injector can go back in that hole, safe in the knowledge there's no crap down there to mess the new washer up. Anyway, flipping heck. That was hot work. Yeah. Right, I'm going to go and make a cup of coffee now. Cheers, big ears. So I'm just going to clean this injector up, get all this crap off it using the wire wheel. But like I said earlier, I'm not going to put the wire wheel anywhere near the tip of this injector. At least that should go back in a lot easier than it come out. I'll get an airline and I'll just blow all the little holes out just so there's no shit in them, and hopefully the injector is still going to be okay. Right, so I'll slide this off like so. And the piece of the washer that actually sits next to the cylinder head has got a little piece worn out of it here. I guess it's been burnt out for some reason, and I guess that's where the gases have been leaking out. If I flip this round the other way, oh yeah, it looks pretty eaten away in there. So that's obviously our problem. I've actually seen a lot of these washers, they've been worn one side, they'll be quite thin on one side and they'll be thicker on the other side. But this washer actually looks to be like fairly uniform thickness all round. I'd have to actually measure it with a micrometer, but by the looks of it, it looks okay. But I'd definitely say this little point here where it's been eaten away is where our gases are leaking. See, if I run my scribe over here, I can actually feel that dipping down. So that's definitely a low spot just here, and that's where our leak is. Luckily, we have a replacement washer. So I'll pop our new washer onto the injector. And now we can stick this back in the engine. Oh, and while we're on the subject of diesel injector washers, I'll just point this out before I forget. This washer stayed with the injector when I removed it from the engine. That's not always the case. Quite often, these washers stay down the bottom of the injection hole, and they are stuck down the bottom of that hole, and you need to be able to get them out. So if this washer is stuck to the bottom of the injector hole, the best thing I've found is to get a 9mm tap and screw that tap into the washer. And I've got this actual tap attached to like an extension and a ratchet. So once that tap's screwed into the washer, you can then just jiggle it and then withdraw that washer out of the injector hole nice and easily. I mean, well, I will say this method using a tap to get the injector washer out has never let me down yet. Right then, I'll stick this injector back where it belongs. One last thing, if that washer is a loose fit where it fits on this injector, you can always put a little bit of grease on it just to hold it on. So anyway, that's our injector all bolted up nice and tight. I've cleaned out as much of the crap as I can. So hopefully when I start this up, everything will be fine now. Oh, and just another thing here. I actually broke the leak-off pipes when I was trying to remove it from the injector because they were so badly stuck in there with this gunge that I just happened to snap them off. So I've got a brand new set of leak-off pipes which I'm going to fit to all the injectors. Yeah. Freaking yuck. Anyway, this is all back together now. I'm going to fire it up and make sure the injector's not leaking. Gee, I am so glad this is fixed, because I'm telling you now, the actual stench that is coming off this bloody engine through the fumes that this injector has leaked, not only does it get down your throat, it also sticks to your clothes, and I absolutely stink now. Everything you touch is sticky. I am horrible job. Anyway, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to pop through the office, check the calendar for my holiday, and then I'll give you my final thoughts on these leaking injectors. How's it going, Miss M?
It's going great, Mr. Allen.
That's exactly what I like to hear, Miss M. A happy bunny. Right, that's it. I'm out of here.
Mary, do you smell something in here?
It does smell a bit like rotten pork.
Well, you know what? It's disgusting and I don't like it.
If you've ever had the serious misfortune to have to replace injector seals that have been leaking, just like I've done, you'll notice that the actual stench that comes off that black tar substance is absolutely disgusting. Number one, it gets down your throat and makes you gag and cough for days on end. Number two, it gets on your clothes and you walk around stinking of God knows what for the rest of the day. That's partly the reason I made a point of walking through the office. I like to share. You know, leaking injector seals can happen to just about any diesel car. The problem with the Mark IV Mondeo is the reason it didn't get detected for so long was that because there was a cover over the top of the injectors. Because normally if you take like a Fiesta or a Ford Focus with a 1.6 diesel in it or something like that, and the seal is leaking, you can hear the engine chuffing, you can hear the compression leaking, so you're kind of like you can see it straight away. But yeah, on these Mark IV Mondeos with that cover on it, that's been like that for a heck of a long time. But it is best if you do detect these things to get them sorted out rather quickly, because the longer it's left, the more deposits are going to get built up and it can get really messy, and I haven't found a chemical yet that can actually get rid of all that gunge. So I think the best thing you can do is scrape up what you can, blow it off and just leave it. It's fine, once you stop the injector from leaking with a new seal, it's not going to smell no more, but it's going to leave your engine in a bit of a mess. You know, this is actually the first time I've had an injector leak on one of these Mondeos. However, not so long ago, we used to have about 6 Peugeot Expert vans. They were called Euro cabs. They were like a cheaper version of the Peugeot Expert E7, which a lot of taxi drivers used to use. I actually reckon Peugeot put all the lower quality parts on these Euro cabs, all the rubbish bits that weren't sort of like made right, because I'm telling you for now, them Euro cabs, they have deteriorated fast from brand new. They didn't last long, and you know, like the seats would like fall to pieces. Things would be falling off them right, left and centre. They weren't very good at all. But anyway, these Peugeot Expert Euro cabs, they had basically exactly the same engine as what's in these Mondeos. With the cover on the top, the engine looked identical, but they're just a slightly different variant, obviously. And you know what? Nearly every single one of them Euro cabs had problems with leaking injectors. And the first one I ever done, it was a right mess, just like this car. And I didn't know at the time, and I was looking over the engine, and and the engine was running, and the gases were leaking past the injectors. And I'm sort of like, you've got to get your head sort of like in there a bit because the engine's a bit set back. And I'm breathing in all these gases as I'm looking for this leaking injector. and I was coughing for like a week afterwards. And then I realised I've been breathing in all that crap. So if you have to do this job, what I do suggest is at least wear some kind of face mask or some kind of protection. Probably a full biological suit wouldn't go amiss. It's not a very nice job. As I've already stated, the gases and the smell that comes off this tar that builds up, it really gets down your throat. It's really, it can't be. Do you know what? I would actually rather smoke 20 fags in a row than do that job. But anyway, I hope this video's helped. If you have to do this job, all I can say is, happy bloody injectors. Till the next time, people. See ya.